To make our ident, we downloaded stock footage off a lens flare off YouTube. We felt our footage chosen was effective in intriguing our audience into watching our film, as it enabled us to create Codes of Enigma.
We placed a heartbeat sound over the top of the footage, as this enabled us to create a certain degree of tension. We sequenced the soundtrack and footage together using Premiere Pro, where we chose our font for our production name.
For every part of our film opening, we place a black border over the footage to provide it with a cinematic effect. We wanted to start our home movie sequence with a shot of both sisters to introduce them together within the scene, suggesting they will have equal importance in the film.
After this, we shot the little sister playing on a climbing frame alone, where the film was meant to be from the perspective of the sister. For these shots, we used a handheld camera to create a shaky and realistic effect, making it more believable that our characters shot our footage.
We placed a recording template over the whole of our home movie sequence to also signify the use of a homemade video. We placed lens flare effects over various parts of our footage. This provided our footage with a much more realistic effect for being homemade.
Corresponding with this, we also placed a vintage filter over all of our footage to suggest it's old. Finally, we placed a grainy filter over the rest of the footage, as this lowered the quality of our home movie sequence, which we felt was necessary as we shot the footage on a camera of higher quality.
We used a flash transition to take us from the home video sequence to our title sequence. This effect was corresponded with the introduction of the soundtrack for this sequence, in which we made our sound louder. Both of these effects impacted the contrast between each scene, engaging our audience within our film opening.
For the title sequence, we encoded 3 separate parts of footage in which we sequenced together to create a visually appealing montage of clips. These included shots of our main character experiencing a nightmare, where we cut to her actual nightmare involving the death of her sister. The last piece of footage was close-up shots of our killer's hands, which we used for the use of Enigma coding, as our audience are forced to wonder who this is and what they are doing. Within the montage of clips, we encoded a range of technical codes through the use of Premiere Pro to sequence our footage together.
For the shots of our character sleeping, we increased our shadows whilst lowering saturation and brightness. We used these effects to create a more dark and sinister approach for this footage to allow it to correspond with our other footage in the title sequence.
Within our hands footage, we encoded a range of technical codes, predominantly focusing on our colour grading of our footage, as well as adjusting the speed of our footage. In the majority of our hands footage, we increased saturation and contrast, as well as shadows. We did not originally plan this, however, when experimenting on test footage, we realised these colour grading techniques were extremely effective in creating the dark and distorted approach which we aimed to create.
For our rubber band footage, we strongly increased the speed and then reversed our footage with the same speed. We did not also plan to use this, however, with testing effects we realised this was an extremely effective way of making our footage visually appealing to the audience.
For every credit encoded within our scene, we used a very technical process to allow our credits to reach the standard that they did. For every title, we layered our text numerous amounts of times, each time adjusting the placement of the text, the size of the text, and the text colour. This made our footage appear like it flashed around the screen.
The film Seven influenced our ideas. We felt the credits for Seven were very visually engaging and also corresponded with the sinister and distorted approach of our footage.
During the process of creating our film opening, we learnt a range of camera techniques, such as specific shots and their meanings. For our hands footage, we used various focus pulls, from out of focus into focus, and this provided our footage with an appealing look. Especially over 2 separate parts of our hands footage, we adjusted the speed of our shots, increasing it to build tension within the scene. For our shot of our killer slamming his hands fast, we slowed down the footage leading up to this shot, and then sped the shot up. This impacted the use of slamming his fist, which took us into our narrative. We felt these speed adjustments techniques were an effective way of engaging our audience into our title of our film, which followed.
Our narrative opened through the use of a panning shot of the driveway our character was walking out of. This was to provide background information as to where the girl lives.
We used a fade to black transition to sequence our driveway scene into our walking scene. This allowed us to signify time passing and ensure we maintain the engaging effect of our scene.
We vertically flipped the shot, followed by our black fade, to reinforce the 180-degree rule. We then use a jump cut as another way of signifying time has passed to take us to a separate location.
During the stone path sequence, we used a range of shots to allow our footage to visually appeal to the audience. For the rest of the sequence, we tried to prioritise the use of our shots shown from different perspectives.
From our passing walkers' views, we tried to signify the little sister was not present within the scene. However, from our main character's perspective, we tried to suggest the little sister was present within the scene.
We use various point of view shots for this to suggest it is all within our character's mind. We use contrasting shots between these characters to juxtapose the themes of life and death surrounding our narrative.
Once exiting the stone path, we finished with the use of a cliffhanger, using a pan shot to track the movements of both the female characters and our killer.
We ended our narrative with the use of a cliffhanger, as we felt this was the most effective way of intriguing our audience into watching the rest of the film.